Hello, hello, and welcome to another video. Today's video is gonna be a card that's a little bit more intricate. It's this little card right here, and it folds up like this, so you can still mail it in a regular envelope. But it's, and I've heard it called sort of like a triple cube card. So when you open it up, it essentially has this kind of a look. So I'll show you how to do it, where we add a little paper in the back. We've got these layered pieces here. I have my sentiment here in the middle. I don't have anything on the back side, but this is one of those where, like, if you wanted to write a little greeting, you could absolutely do that. And if you wanted to add a panel of white, for example, you totally could, and I'll give you those dimensions. So, and it looks like this, which I'm trying to, here, let's use it. There you go. It looks like this when it's on a table, for example. And then, like I said, you'll just fold it up like this when you mail it off to somebody. So I used this with the new paper from our new catalog, our mini catalog. So I used this paper, and it's called the Love You Always, this specialty designer series paper, and it has Blushing Bride, Rococo Rose, and Sahara Sand. And I thought that the Blushing Bride would be a lovely card. And so this is a birthday card, and I thought that I would try to make a card now, the same design, but I'd make it with the sweet ice cream set. So I don't use, you absolutely could like make little ice cream cones and add that as an embellishment. Just be careful when you fold it, because like I said, it needs to fold like this, and it needs to be able to fit in your envelope. So just something to note there. But you could totally make that work. For this card, I'm gonna, since I'm showing you something kind of more technique driven, I'm not gonna add a ton of embellishments, but just know that you totally could. So I'm gonna be using the Sweet Ice Cream stamp set. Like I said, you could add the bundled punch as well if you wished. I'm using cinnamon cider cardstock as like my base piece. Let me move this off to the side here for a second. Then I am using the designer series paper for my embellishment pieces. So these pieces right here. I'm using this piece right here, and you need 6 of them, and they need to be 1 3/4 by 1 3/4. Okay, so that's like this right here. Okay, so 1 3/4 by 1 3/4 squared, and you just need 6 of them. This, you could have done this at the 1 3/4 and made this 1 1/2. I kind of liked the narrower border here. So this is actually just 1 7/8 by 1 7/8, and for, again, all 6 pieces. Okay, then these are the pieces that go on the inside right here. I decided to make them go all the way down. Sometimes if you see other people doing the same design, you'll find that they have theirs only going halfway. Up to you. I thought it might be fun to do it all the way down to make it look more ice cream cone like. And this is 1 3/4 by 1 3/4 by 3 3/4, and that's 2 pieces of that. And then you need 2 pieces of 1 3/4 squared. You could make it 1 7/8 if you'd like, but really, as long as you've got at least 1 3/4, you're fine. This piece goes, these 2 pieces there go on the inside here, and they'll actually be hiding something that you'll do with your sentiment. I'm using a tiny little scrap of soft seafoam. It's one of the coordinating colors. Like, you can kind of tell there's the soft seafoam, but it looks like there are other greens in there too. So I thought that I would keep with the sort of light colored. I've already punched it out because I realize I'm probably going to be a better stamper if I already know my parameters, rather than having this have to fit exactly where I needed it to go in my double oval punch, which is one of the new ones. And that's actually what I use on this here. So I actually used the stamp set called Oval Occasions, and so I stamped that on my piece of white paper, or white cardstock, punched out the from the scalloped side the Blushing Bride. So that was that one. So now all you'll also need And it doesn't need to be anything super fancy, but essentially, you know, when you cut down a piece of white and say you cut it down a card front, but it's not the full front, you always have these little 1/2 inch strips. So you'll need 2 pieces, and they'll need to be about, oh goodness, where's my, there they are. I had moved them off to the side. So they only need to be just shy of 2 inches. So essentially I'm just going to cut mine like that. Really, essentially just 1.5 inches or so, nothing really fancy. And you will definitely need your bone folder, for which I've clearly well loved. So for these, essentially when you get to it, you just need to, I did a good job. Look at that. They're almost exactly halfway. Exactly the same. So you'll actually just fold these in half, and I'll get to that step. So let me first tell you what you need to do with this piece of cardstock. Let me put these off to the side, and then I will show you the first step. So hopefully you've paused the video if you need all of these measurements. I will include them in the blog post associated with this, which you'll have linked below. So if you've got any questions that you need clarified, absolutely feel free to check it out there. This piece here needs to be 8 inches by 8.5 inches, okay? And so then what you need to do is grab your scoring tool. So I'm just going to use my paper trimmer. If you have Stampin' Up scoring tool, absolutely use it. It's a fantastic tool. I just don't have it handy, so I figured I'll just grab this one. So what you'll do, at 2 inches, score. At 4 inches, score. At 6 inches, 6 inches, score. And then also, at 8 inches, you'll score as well. And for those of you who are clever at math, you could have also just flipped this paper and scored it at 1/2 inch. Those would have all been the same. Then what you'll do, you should have even scores here. Then what you'll do is on this shorter side, what you'll do is you'll use your cutting blade now. Oh, I'm sorry, I've got my water bottle here and it was preventing me from cutting properly. So what you'll do is you'll cut it at 2, that piece, and then another one at 2 inches. And then assuming you've done everything correctly, this piece here should be 4 inches. So you'll be left with these 3 pieces. So let's go ahead and show you what you do with them. So now, in order to make sure that your pieces get adhered very well and without overlap too much, go ahead and, I believe this is called mitering. Just kind of cut the corners, but only up to that line. You don't want it to be into the actual cardstock proper. There's that, and there we go. There we go. So now, go ahead and clean up your work surface. I think after this card, I'll have to finally swap out my my craft paper here. So go ahead, then go through and just add that crease, emphasize that crease. There we go, on all of your papers. So it's not going to take too long, but it does make a huge difference when you try to actually get your paper to do your bidding. So I do recommend that you do it. And if you don't have a scoring tool, I highly recommend you get one, especially because right now is Celebration, and Celebration means that for every $50 US that you make a purchase, you actually get one free thing with $50 purchases, but you can also get some free options if you make a $100 purchase. So this is one of those tools that clearly I use very much all the time. I mean, I've stained it from how long I've been using it. And so this is an example of an item that, like, say you really liked the bundle for the sweet ice cream bundle, maybe you wanted to top this off to get to that $50. But it'll have all of those instructions and item numbers listed below. So now you've got these all creased. Go ahead and adhere them together. So for this, I highly recommend Tombow, just because this is going to be one of those things where you kind of want a little give. And here's how you should, I recommend you do it. Fold it in half with this crease on this side, because it'll make it a little bit more malleable. I guess, like, it'll actually kind of do what you'd like it to do a little bit better. And so you'll essentially have this when you're done. Okay, So go ahead and do that for all of them. Perfect. There we go. And then just press it down. The Seal Plus, the Stampin' Seal Plus would also be a fantastic choice. Whenever you're doing anything that's kind of more 3D, you do want to step up your adhesive game just to make sure that it does withstand things like transport and display and even longevity of the cardstock if you're making something like a home decor or something like that. You'd want to be sure that it will last the test of time. So now you've got this, and you essentially have rectangular prisms depending on how they're deciding to sit. So now what I recommend you do, find the crease where you've got it glued, and you can do one of two things. You can make it so it'll go to the back of the card, and then you'll lay your paper on top and it'll hide it, but it's not going to be 100%. So you could always make it where it'll face the front so that the people who receive it will never notice it. But that is up to you. Same thing with this crease. I'm making it where the folded piece, there we go. Yeah, like this. So that my folded piece is on the inside, but on the side that is facing, like it's facing the same direction I'm facing, so that my recipient, if looking at it this way, wouldn't see it in there, even with the paper inside. So that's how I'm going to do it. And what I recommend you do, and you don't have to, but I'm going to put a little X here and a little X here. Nobody's going to know that I put them there, but that's going to tell me this is where I'm gluing my pieces. So now here's this piece. I am choosing to have it where it's face up over here, where nobody's going to see it because when they're looking straight at my card. So I am going to have this opposite side have my X, and then I'm going to do the same thing here like this. So the opposite side will have my X. So now I'm essentially going to glue X to X. Okay. So it's not particularly difficult, and honestly, like I said, this is only for those who have a strong opinion of this. If you don't have a strong opinion, no big deal. It's not going to be the end of the world. But do make sure not to glue it on the actual crease. Make sure that you glue it off that crease, because otherwise it will not fold properly. So I'm just lining it up here and then pressing it down. And this is one of those where, like, if you wanted to, you could definitely use your bone folder too to add a little pressure. And then you can confirm that you didn't do it on the crease by folding this. So now do the same thing with this piece. And so let's go ahead. And you will want them to be kind of close and even. So I do recommend that you try to kind of hold them together and see if that does the trick. And then just, ooh, hello, press it down. Okay, so now you've got this right here. And there we go. So now, and you can confirm that it'll fold exactly like you want it. Perfect. So now you need to do some adhering. So first things first, each of these 6 pieces you will want to adhere to a piece of cardstock. That's why I pre-measured all of mine. I do recommend that you use something that will last, but obviously anything that you have handy will work. The other thing too, these pieces, you could alternate the cardstock. I chose to keep all the same pattern, but I could have used a different piece of cardstock easily. I did not need to use all of these little ice cream cones. There are so many fun patterns in this DSP that I could have used something else. I could have used a little piece of all of them if I really wanted to kind of showcase the cardstock in this set. But my purposes for this was obviously kind of showing you a kind of almost like a fancier card, but kind of a simpler approach to making that fancy card. So I do recommend, say for example you're making many of these, I do recommend that you kind of assembly line it. So like cut all of your paper, then adhere all of your pieces together, and then, you know, glue, etc., etc. So the more you kind of make it assembly line, the more you're gonna use your time in a way that's gonna make it more efficient. So there we go, 2 more. And I chose these because these are the same colors that are listed in the paper pack. The one fantastic thing that I absolutely adore from Stampin' Up! Is that They actually have coordinating cardstock and colors in ribbons and adhesives, and or not adhesives, but like adhesive like decorations and things. So now you're actually just going to adhere these onto these front 6 panels. Okay, so yeah, essentially I love that the coordinating cardstock like just matches so easily. Occasionally they'll have some colors that are clearly in a paper or some kind of a design that are not listed, probably because it's just too not frequent enough is my guess. But the nice thing is that you can still almost always figure out which color that is when you pull out like your catalog. Oh, hello. When you pull out your catalog to figure it out. So now, because you're gluing it here, I recommend kind of having a layout first. But for this one, I really wanted to make sure it did not look like I was picking pieces that were in fact right on top of one another, because I did cut this from one strip. So I wanted to make sure that it looked a little different. So I'm intentionally putting them out of order from how it was originally cut. And if you would rather it look like all one continuous piece, that might be more fun. Who knows? Let's do this one. There we go. So see, like this piece here went on top of this one, for example. Alrighty. Ooh. So, here we go. Now, just to give you a sense of what that looks like, when you just put it in as is, there you go, right? So look at that. Isn't that fun? So, you're not done yet. Let's go ahead, before we go any further, let's glue these 2 pieces in, adding that texture on the inside as well. A little bit of bringing the outside and inside together. You could, one of the advantages of doing like the piece that's half this size is obviously that you don't have to use as much glue, and it's going to be a little bit easier to adhere. But what I've done, essentially, I slide it in and then just gently push it in until it more or less lines up. And then, because you're using liquid glue, it's got a little wiggle room, and then you just gently push it down with your fingers. And again, you could use your bone folder. So then we'll do the same thing. This is one of those pieces that like is also completely optional. Like you really don't have to use this inside piece. You could also just use plain cardstock if you'd like. There's a lot of options here. Oh, see, and look, like I made it a little bit too off to one side. So because I use liquid glue, I can adjust that very easily. So there's that. So now, here's why we needed these little strips. Oops, hello. I say as I drop mine on the ground. There it is. I've lost it to the crafting gods. Okay, so now, like I said, all I did was I just folded mine in half. You really don't need to do anything fancy with it. You could have scored it ahead of time, but really it doesn't matter for what you're using this. So now what you're going to do is you're going to apply glue to 1/2 of these pieces. So essentially, and on the mountain side, if that makes sense. So see how it's like mountain, right? So just apply a little bit of glue to one side, because what you're going to do is you're going to glue them on the inside piece right here. And it doesn't need to be in the middle, but I thought it would look nicer if I got it middle-ish, right? So there's that. So you want to get it glued down really nice. And you could always do this to make sure you've pushed it down really well. But then with the other piece, you're going to line it up with that one. So then you've got like this. And now you can push that one down too. And now this piece of white, obviously not appealing, not great. And that's what these other 2 pieces come in. So you're going to use your same adhesive and just add that layer on top, which kind of gives it a certain level of covertness, right? It's kind of hidden from view. Oops. So, similar to the previous piece, but in this case, you'll just pull it into the side. I've actually made mine go all the way up to the little white piece. Oops, hello. All the way up to the little white piece, so that it technically has a larger border over here, but I thought that that's a small price to pay to make sure that the white piece isn't visible, but that's up to you. you could always make this piece here, you know, 1 7/8 instead of 1 3/4 if you wanted to make sure that it did a better overall coverage job. There we go. And like I said before, you could always like fold this back up and then just kind of press if you wanted to be sure that it would do exactly what you wanted. So now you've got essentially a place that you can adhere your sentiment. Okay, so now I need my stamp. And I've pre-stamped or pre-loaded my stamp here. I've decided to pick the one that says treat yourself. And because I am using a photopolymer stamp, I do recommend that you use the Stampin' Pierce mat underneath it because it essentially gives you the cushion that's missing. Oh, I got one piece of my white paper had gotten a little water damage, and so I've been using it to get into all kinds of like other trials done, so watch out. And just kind of, and obviously if I had wanted to use one of my bigger pieces, but I just had a piece that was just the right size, so why cut down a bigger piece? So I've stamped it. You'll want to give it a second to dry, but notice all I need to do now is I just need to glue it on here. I don't need to put any glue on this piece. And if I did, honestly, it would probably run the risk of not being great, because I would run the risk of having to have it kind of go off the cardstock, which would be problematic. So I'm just going to glue it like this. Cap my glue. Boop. So there's that. And now I'm going to take my sentiment, because it's had time to dry, and just lay it on top. Oops, hello. I feel like that's my tagline. Oops, hello. And then you're just going to gently kind of push it down. And you'll want to make it centered and level if you wish, but you don't have to. If you don't like it level and center, don't do that. So now you can go ahead and kind of push it down a little bit more. And there you are, ice cream themed card, but like really it's more of like a decorative piece that you can display, or I guess that the recipient of whoever it was that you made this for would be able to display on their desk, their table at home, right, on their mantle even. So very cute. If you did want to add something like a stamped and punched out ice cream cone, you totally can, but here's the thing. To fold it into your card, you need to fold it like this, okay? To fit it into the envelope, I mean. And that's because if you fold it this way, it becomes 6 inches. So unless you intentionally mail it in a larger envelope, like a 5x7, this wouldn't fit in our traditional medium-sized envelopes. It will fit this way because it's 4 inches squared. But what happens is if you take one of our envelopes, oops, which, do I have one handy? Looks like I do not. Well, I mean, I've got a few, let's see, hold on. Let me grab one really quickly. Okay, so I bought these like weird little crafty scissors at like the dollar store at all places. So like I use it when I'm cutting into things that I don't want to like maintain my scissor quality. So here's my envelope, for example. And so see here, I could fit that in there beautifully, and there's a little bit of wiggle room. And here's the thing, I can do the exact same thing the opposite direction. A little bit of wiggle room because it's 4x4. So what that means, but notice if I put it into a corner, I've got a fair amount of space here. So if you wanted to, you could absolutely have like an ice cream cone popping up over here where when it was laid down like this, it would like be visible up top. You just have to make sure that you put it into your envelope this way. So I hope you like this card. I realize this video is a little bit longer, but I thought that for kind of an intricate card, it made for a solid excuse for a slightly longer video. Let me do it like this. I think it had a better look that way. Ooh. So there we go. Here we go. There you go. See? Nice and cute. And obviously it'll settle down once you leave it open, or obviously keep it closed as you do this. So I did use, like I said, that other bundle, but like if you already had the layering ovals or even the circles, that would work, but you just have a small window of less than 2 inches here, so just be careful there. So those are the 2 that I've made. I got my inspiration from, I knew I wanted to make this type of card, but I actually made a card for my the demonstrator that I am a demonstrator under. I made her a card for her birthday using the new available for $100 purchase. Not $100 purchase, sorry. If you make a $100 purchase, your free item for celebration could be this. And one of the beautiful papers in here is the card the paper I used to kind of inspire my card design for this one. So hopefully you like the card that I made, and you can see how even though it looks really complicated, it's surprisingly not. So now I've got 2 cards I can send out in the mail to people who may need to treat themselves and or maybe wish a happy birthday. So if you've got any questions, let me know, but I will be putting all of the dimensions on how to make these in the description. Well, I'll put the items of what I used in this card in the description below, but on my blog you'll see all of the dimensions in case you missed them when I was going over them in the video. So I hope to see you guys in the next video. Bye!